Welcome to our virtual guests on Zoom and those who have joined us in the library tonight for our Civic Awareness Series on affordable housing in DuPage County, sponsored by the Leagues of Women Voters of Wheaton, Glen Ellen, Roselle, Bloomingdale, and Naperville, and the Wheaton Library. In March of this year, DuPage County Board Chair announced the formation of an ad hoc DuPage County Board Committee to address issues regarding affordable housing for workers, seniors, the disabled, and families in DuPage County. We are honored tonight that County Board members Liz Chaplin and Sam Tornatore, who serve as co-chairs of the ad hoc committee, have come to share what the County Board has been learning and discussing. DuPage County Board member Liz Chaplin has represented County Board District 2 since December 2012. She is currently chair of the County Board Finance Committee and serves on the Development, Legislative, Public Works, and Transportation County Board Committees. Liz is also a member of Downers Grove 100 Women Who Care. DuPage County Board member Sam Tornatore has represented District 1 since December 2012 also. Sam serves as the chair of the County Board Development Committee, along with his multiple other county board committees. In addition to his county board duties, Sam is a board member of the Illinois Housing Development Authority, where he serves as treasurer and is president of the DuPage Board of Health. Sam and Liz graciously agreed to answer questions following this presentation. Our virtual guests can use the Q&A located at the bottom of your screen window. In-person questions are asked to raise your hand, and a microphone will be passed to you. Now, please join me in welcoming Sam and Liz. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Sam Tornatore. This is Liz Chaplin. Go ahead. Say hi.
Hi, I'm Liz Chaplin. I just wanted to say how really amazing and proud I am of DuPage County for taking on the issue of affordable housing. We're committed to it. We put $2 million aside to help, with whatever we can do, whether it's with developers or land. So it's a very important issue, and I'm very proud of the county for taking it on. And I'm very proud to be serving as a co-chair with my colleague here, Sam Tornatore, who has a wealth of knowledge with his 11 years on the Illinois Housing Development Authority. So he's just a tremendous wealth of knowledge. Sam?
Well, thank you, Liz. You're the finance chair, so you probably know better than me. But did we give $5 million to this? I thought it was 5.
I thought it was 2.
I thought we kicked it up.
Whatever
It is, we'll kick it up again. So anyhow, thank you. Thank you those who are online, and thank you for being here. Liz and I were recently, well, a few months back, appointed as co-chairs of the Housing Solutions Committee, as it's called by Chair Conroy, because she and a number of us on the board are concerned about affordable housing and housing in DuPage County. We have too many people who live in DuPage County who can't afford to live here. So I think it's important, and it has been important for us to address the issue, not only for people who can afford to live here, but people who need to live here. For a variety of reasons, whether they have some physical infirmities, whether they're seniors, whether they're veterans. There's a multiple number of ways where affordable housing comes into play. And what we've done at the county is started a series of presentations, informational to the county board, to let them know what affordable housing means, how we would ultimately be able to help developers and make it more attractive for them to be participants in affordable housing projects within the county, understanding that the county board only has jurisdiction over those areas which are unincorporated. So there will have to be some buy-in with other residents and municipalities in whatever we ultimately do. So every month we've had a different viewpoint of affordable housing. We had Kristen Faust, who is the executive director of the Illinois Housing Development Authority, of which I've served for, I'm now in my 11th year. And the Illinois Housing Development Authority is a $4 billion authority. It's a state entity that promotes and finances and preserves affordable housing throughout the entire state. Kristen had a wealth of knowledge. I asked her to come to the county board, and she gave kind of an overview of what IDA does and what affordable housing means. So I stole her presentation, and we're going to use that as a PowerPoint. And then another one that we had from Paul Haas, who is our building and zoning guru over at the county. And he is going to, and he gave us a wealth of knowledge and has a wealth of knowledge of the entitlement or the zoning issues which apply. Ultimately, we're going to have developers come before us, finance people come before us, hopefully some people from the municipalities, and then try to get the county board to understand what it means to get from point A to point Z with affordable housing. We have some new members on the board who want to get started tomorrow. We wish we could. It doesn't work that way. It's got to go slow. We've got to build the foundation, and that's kind of what we're doing now. So we're going to start. You're going to, okay, we'll just go through here. And I'm not going to read. I'm really not a fan of people reading what's on the screen because you're either not paying attention to the speaker or you're not paying attention. So we're going to kind of click through this, and I always start there. I'll kind of wing it through here. This was again the presentation that we had from IDA, and IDA is this self-supporting agency that was created to provide financing and support, and the mission is to create affordable housing throughout Illinois. As you can see, $21 billion in state, federal, and private sector money have been used. Now, affordable housing means ownership, means rental, means multifamily, means single family. IDA is right now tomorrow we actually have a board meeting in Chicago. We have one every month, and we're going to be dealing with about $400 million of bonds dealing with rental and mortgage assistance. We had much money that came from the federal government during COVID for rental and mortgage assistance. We have first-time home buyer assistance, down payment assistance. So there's a variety of things which IDA does. So I don't know where we're at with this. This is kind of the wheel of what IDA does. Eviction and foreclosure prevention. We had money for people who were having problems being evicted. Community partnering. I can't really read it from the side here, but asset management. Now, asset management is interesting because IDA essentially is a bank. We like to call it a bank with a heart. So what we'll do is we will make loans, sometimes forgivable, sometimes low interest loans to developers to build affordable housing units. Sometimes those people can't pay. And when they don't pay back, like a bank, we sometimes have to take it over. And there are other layers of financing other than IDA on some of these projects. So IDA has somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 million worth of assets, real estate throughout the state that we have to manage because the people who originally were managing it can't do it now. I was chair of that asset management committee for the first 4 years, and you really got to see how the properties are sometimes in a state of disrepair. So we have to come in, fix them up, make sure that the people who are living there are living in good conditions. An interesting thing, when I first went to one of my meetings early on, it was an early morning meeting. They said, come the night before and stay at a hotel. There was no room to stay at a hotel. So they put me in a condominium in a 26-story building or 30-story building right next to the Hyatt Regency, Chicago. I walked in, it was this gorgeous condominium, fully furnished. I came back the next morning, went to the board meeting. I said, whose condo was I staying in last night? And they said, oh, that's ours. That belongs to IDA. That was one of the low affordable housing units that had to be put into that unit when it was built. There was a certain percentage of less than market rate places that we had taken over because the management company didn't. So I got to stay there that night. But that's kind of the way IDA works. So let's go to the next one. We don't want to get too far into the weeds with IDA. This is some statistics about affordable housing in DuPage County. We have affordable housing in DuPage County. We just don't have enough of it. As you can see, we've got 862 affordable rental units, supportive housing units. Those are units for people who have some disability of one kind or another, need some assistance. We always try to accommodate that. Home buyers, these were buyers who purchased homes with an IDA mortgage. Usually the rate on an IDA mortgage is less than market rate. There is, again, down payment assistance. We have renters, 5,300 renters and whatever it is, 600 or 800 homeowners. Vacant properties, which we're looking to develop. And 8 municipalities already have some affordable housing situations that IDA is participating in. So it's just a few statistics. We don't want to get too hung up on statistics because I know you're looking for a general overview. So what does affordable housing mean? Generally, the definition of affordable housing is housing that is not greater than 30% of your gross income. So put real numbers to that. If you were going to rent an apartment in downtown Wheaton, if you could find one for $2,500 a month, I don't think the ones next door are $2,500 a month. I think they're probably more, but let's assume they were, or you were going to have a mortgage of $2,500 a month with mortgage, taxes, and insurance, which really isn't much more than about $130,000 or $140,000 mortgage. That's $30,000 a year. That means you'd have to make $100,000 or more to live in that place and still consider it affordable. I practice law. I'm with state's attorneys, public defenders, clerks who don't make near $100,000 a year who are trying murder cases every day, nurses, teachers, clerks at the court, people who work with Liz and I at the county building, who work in DuPage County but can't afford to live here. So affordable housing isn't low income housing. That's a kind of a third rail for a lot of people. They don't want to hear that. It's not Section 8 housing. That's a federal funding program, totally different. It's housing for people who need to be able to live, hopefully close to where they work, and do it without breaking the bank. What we're going to try to help you with today and what we're learning every day at the county is how we can get from, again, point A to point Z, from concept to completion, how a local government, or in our case, the county government, can foster or help get to affordable housing. And IDA is going to be a participant in this because they've got money. IDA has money to help fund some of these projects. A lot of times developers will come in, and we found that in central and southern Illinois in particular, there's very little affordable housing, very little senior housing, very little housing for people with disabilities. So we try to get that. A developer will come in and say, I've got a project and it's going to cost us $200 million to build X number of units. The local bank's going to give us $75 million. I'm going to be able to borrow another $75 million, but I'm $50 million short in order to keep the rents affordable, in order to keep it not here, but here. That's where the Illinois Housing Development Authority comes in, supplements that with either low interest or no interest loans to help that development get off the ground. The property must remain affordable. So it's got certain requirements. Usually it's a 20 or a 30-year period where that property has to remain affordable in order for the loan not to become in default. Go ahead, Liz. Affordable housing, again, that's okay, we can go here. It's no more than 30%. That's where we started. Permanent supportive housing is another term for, as we talked about before, housing where we help residents with disability or those experiencing homelessness. Low income housing tax credit, or LIHTC. That's another term that you may hear from time to time. A low income housing tax credit is what a developer gets to build an affordable housing unit. They don't necessarily get money, but they get tax credits. The federal government and the state have a certain allocation of tax credits that they can give. It's real dollars because if it's coming off the top of somebody's income, it means money to them. But those are another way to fund some of that. The qualified allocation plan, or the QAP, that's kind of inside baseball. That's just a document that a developer will submit to see if they fit the criteria to get those low income housing tax credits. And area median income, if you've heard it before, AMI, is basically the midpoint of what the people in a particular area make. So it's kind of the middle portion. What do we got next? Yeah, let's go to the next one. Multifamily, by definition, means kind of apartments. It's or condominiums, or more than single family developments. IDA awards loans, grants, and tax credits. There's federal and state credits. Home loans is a particular type of loan that's used. And these investments ultimately result in quality developments. And there's going to be some pictures of some. They're really, really nice buildings that people are proud to live in. It's terribly important to have people living in these in their families, especially if it's closer to where they're working. We've allocated $1.6 billion in affordable apartments in 2022. Our portfolio consists of over 100,000 units and various developments. Probably half of IDA's money is in Cook County. A lot of it's in Chicago, rehabbing west side, south side developments that have fallen into disrepair. People need to live there. I could maybe during the question and answer, I'll tell you a couple of stories about some really terribly, almost tear-jerking stories about how people have been able to get into some of these places and literally come from Lower Wacker Drive and move into a nice, beautiful home on the west or south side of Chicago. So that's multifamily. What do we got next? Okay, this is something in DuPage County that we've already got in Lombard. This was something that IDA dealt with, and we were part of this project through their permanent supportive housing program in 2014. These are 12 apartments for individuals. I was there when we opened it up as an IDA representative. Great. It's a start. It's not as much as we need. We want more, but this is an example of a permanent supportive housing place already in existence in DuPage County. Okay. We went through this one already, I think. Yeah. Okay. Oh, so here's one in Warrenville. Okay, we've got one. These are 71 restricted units for independent seniors. Seniors are another group that IDA likes to focus on because, you know, as we all know, you get older, it's harder to meet the increase in the cost of living, and especially if you're on a fixed income. So we look for places like that because most if seniors need to sell their home, they still want to stay relatively close to where they live, where their children are, their grandchildren. These are great places to go. Seniors, veterans is another one. When I was appointed under the Quinn administration, and Governor Quinn was a big supporter of veterans. Veterans were really a #1 priority for him. So we also have certain places that look to focus on veterans as much as anything else. So these were funded with IDA, LIHTC, or low income housing tax credits in 2020. I think we might have one more. Oh, okay. This is maybe the most important slide. These are the partners in dealing with affordable housing. Developers. You need to have people who are willing to be developers. They are specific in what they do. They generally are developers that only deal in affordable housing. They understand it. They manage the property. That's where a lot of them make their money because they don't make as much on the building of it, but they make it sometimes on the development process. Municipal and county government, identifying the property. The first thing we have to do at the county is look at places where these developments can be had. So we need to identify where they might be in various parts of the county. You're not going to know where they're at. We're not going to tell you. We have some places that we've identified, but the minute we make it public, the value of those properties are going to skyrocket because whoever owns them is going to expect more money. So we're trying to keep it a little bit quiet for the time being, and also get the buy-in of the people around there so that they don't think that they've been blindsided by the county. State and government financing agencies, again, including IDA will be a participant in this. Private sector lenders and investors doing private construction loans and mortgage financing. Usually when there is a development of affordable housing, there's probably 6 or 7 layers of financing. You've got the developer finance as part of it. The local banks might have 1 or 2 mortgages. You might get money from the federal government. You're going to get money from the state, maybe some grants. There's a number of things that are involved. So it's multi-layered. Community-based organizations provide services and resources. CADS, a lot of other places have been very helpful in making this happen. And last but not least, the residents. You have to get the people who live in the community to buy into what you're doing. You've all heard the term NIMBY before, not in my backyard. People don't necessarily want to see things change. So if there's a current area in the county that's vacant, that people think of as a forest preserve, even though it's not, you start building on it, they're going to wonder what's going on. Oh, there's going to be too much traffic. Who's going to how are we going to get from point A to point B? Surprisingly, the school districts may come in and not be terribly happy about it because maybe they won't get the same tax money that they got before. So there's not only the municipalities, but the schools, the fire districts, the libraries, the park districts, all of which are going to be impacted by affordable housing when it gets ultimately built. That's where we've got to come in as the politicians and try to get people to understand what we're trying to do. And this is beneficial for everybody. It's, again, we're not bringing people in from somewhere else to upset the apple cart in our wonderful county. These are people who work here, who live here, who are productive members of society, who need a place to live. I think we might be close. How can we help? Making public land available, identifying it, trying to perhaps purchase it. There are things called land banks and land trusts, which we might be able to use. Density ratios. Right now, there's all kinds of codes that we have at the county. You could only have a certain amount of density in a particular area. They call it floor area ratios. We can maybe lessen those requirements a little bit, make them more attractive to developers to come in to be able to do this. The infrastructure, water, sewer, utilities, maybe help out, again, that developer, make it more attractive for a developer to come in, not make it any less safe, but make it a little bit easier to get from point A to point B. Property tax relief to reduce the operating costs. Yeah, we at the county can do that. But the minute we reduce the taxes, the schools are going to come and the parks are going to be unhappy and the fire districts are going to be unhappy. So again, there's a balance there. And then, plans to implement those goals to establish a roadmap for developers. So what we're trying to do with the county is to get ultimately developers to come in and say, these are properties that we're looking at. We'd like to help you. Tell us what we can do to make this particular project in this particular location an easier fit for you. How does it fit within your business plan? Because they have to make a living. These people are in business. We might be close to the end, I think. Okay, here's West Chicago. Main Street Lofts, we had 24 apartments were designed by individuals with disabilities, homelessness, and veterans, funded through, again, IDA's Permanent Support Housing Program in 2020. Again, IDA is just one piece to the financing puzzle. There's a lot more, but a lot of the money comes through IDA. IDA is the state agency that gets the money from the federal government, from HUD, Housing and Urban Development, comes into IDA, and IDA disperses it just like a bank, like it would. People come in, they make an application. We do loan criteria and make a determination whether or not it fits. We may be close. Okay, so that's kind of the IDA portion, but we started with that because it really is more general. The next part of the slides are going to be more specific to DuPage County because they came from our development people, that are building and zoning people, and some of it may overlap a little bit. But did you want to go ahead? I'm sorry, I'm dominating. So that's.
Should you want to do questions on this portion?
Why don't we just why don't we go through it, because it's a little more targeted, I think, too. So yeah, these are the challenges. So
yes. So okay. So yes, so the challenges of affordable housing, we see the availability and the cost of land. The cost of land in DuPage is prime. I mean, everybody wants to live here. It's very expensive. Zoning and plat entitlements, regulatory environment, and fees associated with entitlement. So these are all, some challenges that we have just with the building of the development. Okay, so we have the availability of land and cost of land. So the land cost approximately adds, you can see 25 to 30% of the development cost. Not a lot of land is available. Most developers, it's not a greenfield, but redevelopment of existing developed land. And much of a lot of our land in the unincorporated area is distressed. And we were talking about that with our Lean and Clean program, so maybe some of these properties we may be able to pick up and use for affordable housing, single family homes. The lack of public infrastructure, that's a huge issue. So if we want to build in an undeveloped area, we have to bring in the stormwater, the water, the roads. things like that. So that's a huge issue. Opportunities to mitigate these challenges and provide land for development, the county code enforcement and DuPage County neighborhood revitalization program, Clean and Lean. And that's a great program. That's what I was just talking about, where we go in and we can, work to get these properties cleaned up. If they don't clean them up, we could possibly obtain these properties and, use them maybe for single family homes. Coupled with the Clean and Lean, we have land acquisitions and underutilized and remnant properties. And the land banks. DuPage County, we're not home rule. So if we were to want to do a land bank, I believe we would have to go to Springfield to get legislation to allow us to land bank that would allow us to buy land and put it aside. Right now, we don't have that ability. Okay, so here is what the land bank, it's created by local jurisdictions. For independent nonprofits, we can hold abandoned, vacant, and tax delinquent properties for future development. This reduces the number of blighted properties, as you can see, stabilizes and revitalizes neighborhoods, removes foreclosed properties from the market. We hold them for a period of time, and then let qualified buyers, when the conditions, have qualified buyers purchase when the conditions have stabilized. And local governments can give local land banks authority to accept below market rates and or freely convey the property to nonprofit dealers. So over 120 land banks, there are 120 throughout the United States. So that's another great reason why we, might be looking into the land bank, is because then we can, convey that property over to our developers or nonprofits to make it a little more affordable. Okay, what is a county land bank? Yeah, we just did that. So we'll go on. What is a land trust? Oh, I can't even read that. Yes, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much the same as a land bank. So case studies, King County, Washington. This is a great county. We look to them for a lot. They do a lot of innovative things. But there are leaders in this, and you can see that they generated 400 affordable housing units, including 170 in this Greenbrier, Woodville area. Entitlements, concepts of housing solutions. So we talked about the entitlement process. Over the last 10 to 15 years, majority of large-scale developments are completed through land use entitlements, rezoning, conditional use, and variations. So as Sam mentioned earlier, rezoning kind of went with the density. Instead of having to have 40 parking lots, we can maybe have 20 parking lots. We can have more room for housing, things like that. Opportunities to mitigate these challenges, allow development by right. So the creation of a county overlaying of zoning districts or distressed areas and properties that would allow as of right development for developers of affordable housing concepts. Potential zoning and subdivision concepts, increased density for proposed subdivisions when affordable housing is incorporated, increased flood ratios, and density bonus. Require that developers set aside a % of total units for affordable housing. And regulatory environment, building and zoning department regulations, health department regulations, stormwater, transportation, fire district regulations. So just like on any other development that we do, the health department weighs in, the fire district weighs in, transportation weighs in. They all weigh in to make sure that they don't see any problems with, maybe a septic system or a, that there's workable fire hydrants and there's roads in and out to the subdivision. So all that has to be taken in consideration. Opportunities to mitigate these challenges, unified developer code. So we can have one code of regulations for development that have an affordable housing element, which makes it, again, easier for the developer and a little more affordable. Expedited reviews for housing developments, allowance of prefabricated modular and cross-mod housing, and county support of due diligence on distressed properties. And then these are some of the properties I believe that we've cleaned up at the county. And regulatory concepts for housing solutions, the health department, wells, well water for individual buildings can be easily constructed as long as they meet I can't read that, contain setback requirements. Multifamily wells can be approved for up to 14 services. So these are things that the health department, can work with us on. Non-sewer connections, the health department does have not have a minimum of a lot size requirement for septic systems. Poor soil tests can be overcome with National Sanitation Foundation, which can clean the sewage to a cleaner level. Situations where previous systems will not work, no space available, soils compacted, doesn't drain properly, or detention pond uses the available space, and sanitary sewer, what's that say? Is somewhat close. And then the IEPA approved self-contained sewage system is another option for more challenging units, and cluster septic systems where multiple buildings are to be built. So these are some ways that, again, we can make it a little easier. So regulatory concepts for housing solutions, stormwater management. So a large percentage of vacant properties contain special management areas, wetland, floodplains, and floodways. That's something that, we have to look to and, work with the developers on these challenges that we have. Opportunities to mitigate these challenges with stormwater, we could include reducing the special management area buffers for housing developments and pre-approve alternate compliance agreements for candidate distressed properties. So the fees associated with entitlement, municipalities have resources to assist developers, annexation, tax increment financing districts, and tax abatements. Opportunities to mitigate these challenges are building permit fees. They can be reduced building permit fees for housing developments. We can have division of transportation fees reversed or reduced or waived. Possible reduction in school and park district donations for housing developments, possible reduction in county property tax portion for housing units, and monetary contributions in lieu of construction of affordable housing units. You can see affordable housing trust funds created in Miami-Dade, which I believe could help us with our work. Having an affordable housing trust fund could provide to that more affordability here in DuPage. Okay, and with that, I think we're going to move over to the chairs and we'll be open for questions, and we'll take the mic.
I did want to just mention one thing that we touched on before, called the Clean and Lean program. 8 years ago or so, I was at an IDA conference and we had a breakout session, and there was a program that was developed where municipalities could determine properties that were in a state of disrepair, have the municipalities come in, clean them up, and if they didn't get paid by the property owner, could actually put a lien on the property. And then when the property got sold, the municipality could collect that money. Clean and lean. That's where the name came from. It was only for municipalities. I asked if there were any counties that participated, and there weren't any. We were able to make an application and a grant. We had no money. We had $50,000 into a fund that really didn't give us a lot of teeth to be able to get in and do this. We were able to get a grant from IDA for $250,000 that gave us the opportunity to go to various properties that were in a state of disrepair and tell the people, you've got to clean these up. We'll help you, but if you don't, this is what we're going to do. And we cleaned many of them up. Some of them we basically had to demolish because they were totally gone. Some of them we actually purchased and were owned now by the county. And it's like a park in the middle of a neighborhood because it's there. And we were able to recoup whatever our cost was through the sale of the property or through leaning. It's been obviously received very well by the people in the neighborhoods because nobody likes a home that looks terrible down the street. So we were able to get that. We probably got about 50 properties right now that we've been able to take care of in that way. And those may be some of the properties that we could use for affordable housing. Affordable housing, some people think, Cabrini Green, okay, that what used to be known as, doesn't have to be, it can be a single family home, just like you saw here. It can be a home that we go in and we clean up. The people don't live there anymore. We buy it and we turn it into an affordable housing unit. So there's a lot of different ways which we're able to do that. And that's where the kind of the Clean and Lean program came on. Liz and I were on the development committee then. That really brought it to fruition. And it's still used now. And we just made another grant application to IDA for $750,000 to even kick up the Clean and Lean program. You may have seen some articles in the paper. There was a $5 million house in Naperville that was subject matter of a divorce. Neither of the husband nor the wife wanted to keep it up. It fell into a total state of disrepair. There was drugs going on in there, all kinds of crime, flooding. There was no way to rehab this property. We literally were in court for years because the neighbors weren't terribly happy about what was going on. We knocked it down. We're going to lien the property. We're going to be able to recoup that money. And at some point, that property, which is very valuable, is either going to put another home on it, or we may use it for multiple homes at the county. So those are how we get to where we got with this Clean and Lean program.
And if I could just add, one thing about these properties that we could do is, for me, ownership is important because affordable home ownership can lead to generational wealth. So as we're looking, the renting is very good, but we do need some homes that you can purchase. And some of these properties that we may have might be ideal to put a single family home on, have somebody manage it. The family that lives there can, stay for a few years or however long they want. When they sell it, of course, they can't sell it for a huge profit, but they can earn a little equity, sell it, then move on. And so that's some of the things that we're looking into, because those are very important, creating that generational wealth too. But that's one of the great things we can do with some of these properties with the Clean and Lean, if it would ever come to fruition. So, okay, should we head over to the chairs, or
Sure.
do you want to sit down, or do you want to?
Whatever you want. I can stand.
Okay, we can stand here. Okay.
I know that there's a property in Glen Ellen right now that has been in the newspaper. The town of Glen Ellen actually bought a hotel, and they've been holding on to it for a year, and they're fighting with the decision. There's a big proposal to have it as affordable housing, and they're just stalling and holding their feet to the mud. I don't know. So this is what you have to go through all the time. And it's right on Roosevelt Road on a bus line, and there's schools and parks there. It would be so perfect for, but so this is what you fight with all the time then, when you say not in my backyard.
Well, the county, we haven't done this yet. We've done these few properties, but I think those went through, I think with, they're beautiful. They're really nice properties, but yes, it could be an issue, because that's why, as Sam said, when we do this, we want to go out to the community before we announce that we're going to be building, have meetings with them, let them know what we intend. Because sometimes when somebody reads something in the newspaper before you contact them, then they automatically become suspicious. So we want to get buy-in from the residents, make sure that they, explain to them what's going on. There's a beautiful development, 1212 Larkin Avenue in Elgin, and it's run by Full Circle. And I don't know how many units they hold, but it was years. I believe it was probably 4 or 5 years to get to where from start to finish. And I believe we talked about all these different financing. I believe they had 13 different finance layers in there to get that. And They worked with the people that lived like right to the east or to the west of them to, you know, buy in, but the units are beautiful, the townhomes and the condominium. I mean, they're absolutely gorgeous. It's a beautiful area. So I think it's how you present it to your neighbors, to the neighborhood. So, and I think in the Glen Ellen instance, I think they have a couple people that have applied to use that hotel for various reasons. And I think with next month, they're supposed to, I guess, vote on who's going to get that, or I'm not exactly quite sure, but it would be nice if they could do it for affordable housing, but that's, you know, the different government body than us. Sam.
The issue, well, the issue with Glen Ellen on that particular project, it's in Glen Ellen. We can't do anything about it. We control unincorporated areas, so we couldn't go into Glen Ellen and tell them what to do or what not to do. So that's from the county perspective. Municipalities frown on us crossing over and trying to tell them what to do.
But you can encourage them, always encourage.
Always.
All right. Hi, I'm Lori Baker. I'm president and CEO of the Association for Individual Development. We provide services at 1212 Larkin and helped advocate for years for that to be built. We're also the owners and developers of West Chicago Main Street Lofts, which was the drawing in there, but this is what it really looks like in real life. And people should begin moving in next week. So I just wanted to throw out that we will be having a ribbon cutting and open house on August 31st at 10 a.m. If anybody wants to come and check out what a permanent supportive housing project for people with disabilities and experiencing homelessness or other needs for support is like. They're gorgeous, beautiful, nicer than most of our homes, and really add value to your community and allow our loved ones to live and work and age where they have always lived and worked and aged. So it's a really important thing. So that wasn't a question, sorry.
Hi, I guess I just was a bit taken aback by your comment of we can't do anything with Glen Ellen. The county can, I mean, Mary Ozog could support as the representative from that community. Ida is involved with regardless of what it is, unincorporated or incorporated. And so what could you potentially do in terms of showing support? Because I work in the world of persons experiencing homelessness and affordable housing. And I deeply believe that we can make this happen in Glen Ellen, as well as I deeply believe if we don't, we're going to be setting back the opportunities to create affordable housing in DuPage County by years and years. So I would hope that both the county and the leadership at the county board and Ida would be able to show some levels of support and advocacy for the project that's happening in Glen Ellen.
Well, as being on the board at Ida has very little to do with the county. So that's Ida will support that, and Ida can support that. From the county perspective, yeah, individual representatives of those districts can certainly go to village meetings and advocate for the people that they represent. What I said, I don't know that I said we couldn't do anything. I said the problem with that is it's Glen Ellen, and any municipality has got their own set of rules and regulations, and they have their own elected officials who make the rules. And it's very difficult, if not impossible, to infringe on those places. We can certainly, and we do go to municipalities and make suggestions we've got a project, the Lake Street corridor in my district. There's some really bad old auto repair places, and we've got a couple of what used to be adult bookstores going right between Hanover Park into Addison on Lake Street. And what we've attempted to do is to try to do an overlay or zoning on that area in order to clean that up and make it more attractive to the people who live and work around there. The problem with that is that land goes through Hanover Park, Roselle, Bloomingdale, Addison. So all of those municipalities, the mayors, the village boards have to buy in to what we're looking to do, as well as those property owners. So it's much more difficult than it appears, but we're trying. And the problem is that, and if you've ever known a mayor or you live in a town, you know that the people who are the elected officials in those towns, that's their town. They have their ideas of what they want to do. And that's where we have to kind of tread lightly, because you're not looking necessarily to make enemies, because then we're not going to go anywhere with it. But it doesn't mean that Mary Ozak, and I won't speak for her, that's her district, she's going to make a decision on what she wants to do. But the people from District 4, I'm certain, will at some point make a decision whether they want to support that or not. But Ida certainly supports it.
Yes.
Hi, I have to admit that I don't know that much about this topic, but the Red Roof Inn in Downers Grove that the county was looking at to buy for homeless people, is that part of this?
No, that's a separate issue. Yeah.
No,
No,
but
that-
good for them for doing that. And
Yes.
secondly, I was thinking if you have a housing development and then you have disabled people, veterans, seniors, I mean, that's just a roof over their head. They're going to need more, how to access services, social workers. Is that what you were talking about? And then does
Ye-
the government help provide money for those
Well-
items to support them?
A lot of the affordable housing, for example, the 1212 Larkin, because I was out there, I visited, they do have management on staff. They have a community room. They meet with the people regularly. They help them with the tools they need to succeed. Yes. Yes, on-site services. Yeah. So a lot of them will have that, because we want the people to be able to stay in those units. So,
But we
The-
have to build them first.
right, we have to
okay?
build them first.
We
Yeah.
got to get started. I mean, this is got to get them built, got to get people in, got to finance them. And then it's, then we'll definitely work with various agencies who will be able to do the things that you're talking about. 'Cause
We
that's
have
fairly
a couple
important.
online questions. The first one is, what is the process for DuPage County to become home rule? And would that make it easier to establish affordable housing?
Well, it would make it easier, but I don't know if there's a will to move forward with home rule. It can be a very touchy subject with the ability to tax then, and that's where the issue lies with that. We've talked about it numerous times, about the possibility of the county becoming home rule, but it is a little, could be a little touchy. But Sam, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I do. I don't understand why any municipality or the county is not home rule. We've got almost 1 million people in DuPage County and we're not home rule. And then there are towns that have 5,000 people who are home rule. So it all depends on the electorate and whether the electorate believes that the people that they elect are going to not tax them to death. That's always been the big issue. And when I served on the village board in Roselle, early on in my career, I advocated for home rule, and I was told by some of the more veteran people, no, you can't do that. People don't want to do that. They think that you're going to raise taxes for them, so it'll never happen. And my response, in what I thought was my logical mind, was that we let the federal government in Washington raise our taxes, and we don't know who they are. We let Springfield raise our taxes, and we don't necessarily know who they are, but you're worried about the person who lives next door to you, who serves on the city council, raising your taxes. That didn't make any sense to me. Still doesn't make any sense to me, but that's the problem with home rule. The county and non-home rule communities can only do what the state allows us to do. We can't make up a lot of our home rules. We can't increase certain taxes. We sometimes get around it with a specific tax, but like a hotel motel tax, we don't have in DuPage County. And yet there's hotel motel taxes in municipalities. If we were home rule, we could do that, which would generate some revenue that we aren't getting because of that. So it's been one of those third rail topics for many years for a lot of people. Usually municipalities, if you're over 25,000 people, you can become home rule, or you can do it by referendum. At the county, we'd have to have it as a referendum. And perhaps we will put that on the ballot at some point when we feel there's an appetite for it and when we think that we could get the votes to pass that. But I would be in favor of it because, my feeling is that if you don't trust the people you elect, then you don't vote for them the next time if you don't like what they did. That's pretty simple.
Next question from our online viewers. A fear is that affordable housing evolves into Section 8. Does history support this, or is it a myth?
My experience from Ida is that it's more a myth than it is history supporting it, because affordable housing is, by definition, what we talked about, the ability for people to live within their means. Section 8 is a very specific federal government program that deals with certain areas and certain types of housing that is totally different than affordable housing. So if you hear Section 8 or you hear low income, those are things that we try to avoid because they just send the wrong message.
Yes, well, that's what I was just gonna say that. And that's another thing we all need to work to do is to remove the stigma from the Section 8 housing. All humans are on the same level. Everybody should have a home to live in, and we should not look down on people that live in lower income areas, that don't make as much money as us, because they have, given the right tools and the services that they need, they can achieve just like any of us. So, we really need to remove that stigma from the Section 8 housing as well.
So I have a couple of questions. Some are about the long-term development and some are about like more emergency services. So for the long-term, when developers are receiving the tax credits, how many of them are providing permanent affordable housing and how many are providing like a temporary affordable housing in multi-unit that then becomes, whatever market rate? Yes. Thank you.
Well,
it all depends on the applicant and the application. And you don't get tax credits for non-affordable rate.
Yeah,
property.
but I know that for some development that it's like only for X amount of years and then that sunsets and then it's market rate. So what do you know roughly the percentage of permanent versus temporary?
When you say temporary, I'm not sure. I know what you mean.
I mean,
Permanent supportive housing is people who are not necessarily renting, but living there for as long as they can. Yeah, 20 or 30 years is the norm. Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's the norm.
Okay. And then are there more hotel sites that you're looking at? Or you're not discussing that here?
Well, and right now, and really right now, we're in the gathering information stage.
Okay.
So like Sam mentioned, we had three meetings, I think, already. We're bringing in different people. Unfortunately, our last meeting had to be canceled, but we're going to be bringing in developers to our next meeting. Then I think the following meeting, I think we're going to try to get land bank experts in. So as we're in the information gathering stage, and once we gather all the information that we need, we can start developing a plan, like maybe a plan A and a plan B for different types of housing. But really nothing, we don't have any plan yet.
Okay. And then regarding more emergency services, is a landlord risk mitigation fund or a housing navigator or social services provider, like at the county level or anything along those lines, something that is being looked at in tandem with this?
Well, through our community services department, we have caseworkers that can help people, with certain needs that they have. But what were all the items that you asked about, Lori? I can't. I know we do emergency housing at the county currently.
We have that.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have that in place already through community services and under one of the ARPA funds, we got $27 million from the federal government for rental assistance, which we had to make a decision. Could we at the county administer that effectively and hire the people that were necessary to do that? We decided that we couldn't. So we essentially gave that money to Ida, who already had the people in place to administer for us in DuPage County. So there's been significant rental assistance. The court system has set up mediators and negotiators for people who have been victims and or evicted or about to be evicted from their homes as a result of defaults on their mortgages. So that's already in place. That really isn't what we're dealing with here, but that's in place.
We have time for one or two more questions.
Well, I had two. Let's see if we can get both in. Sitting up with my climate change antenna up, a couple of your slides, you talked about distressed properties in floodplains. And then later on, you talked about reducing the amount of floodwater set aside required for developments. Isn't that going to be a problem?
Well, that's an option that
No.
that's something that we can do to alleviate costs. Not that we necessarily would, but it's something that we could do to make the project less expensive.
It sounds like it's
And if
gonna,
it was as simple as you pointed it out to be, it would be a problem.
Yeah.
But it's not. I mean, there are certain requirements in the current code in floodplains that have setback requirements and where you can build and where you can't, that were instituted 100 years ago that may not necessarily apply now because we have different ways of getting rid of that water that we didn't have before, stormwater detention or otherwise. So if we can give a developer an extra 10 feet that they didn't otherwise have, that might go a long way in terms of making it attractive for them. So that's what we're talking
do
about.
it intelligently. That
Well, that's what we're going to try to do.
the
As
other
long as
que-
Liz and I are in charge, it'll be intelligently.
the other question, just reaction, just from reading the paper, the immediate thing that follows Cook County Land Bank is scandal in the news.
Well, we'll try to stay away from that.
Yes.
And I'm afraid this will be our last question.
I do want to say that it's really, I do want to say that it's really nice that you two are dedicated to working in this area since it's so important. But I wondered about tiny houses. Has the county Ida and these developers considered making those?
We have somebody on our county board is a big proponent of tiny houses, Sheila Rutledge from District 6. I don't know that that's going to necessarily be part of this plan. It may be a component part to it. But again, if there's a developer that has attractive land that thinks that tiny houses are going to sell, got to look around the neighborhood and make sure that the people in the neighborhood who have 3,500 square feet houses are going to buy into that. Okay. So we all live in a community, and that's what we have to deal with as elected officials. We represent districts, but we also represent the entire county. But I think that may be a component part at some point, just simply because it makes a lot of sense for a lot of people, for a variety of reasons.
And it could be maybe part of our plan. But a lot of those tiny houses too, I think you see them in different climates too. So, we had to make sure that a tornado would not knock it down, or, extreme weather or something like that. But, it would be something that, might be in a plan, may not be in a plan. But like I said, we're just still in our planning stages and our information gathering stages. But I would say if you're dreaming, the possibilities could be endless, right? We could do whatever, the county, whatever we plan.
So thank you to the DuPage County Board Members, Liz Chaplin and Sam Tornatore. We really do appreciate you spending your evening with us. Thanks so much. And as always, thank you to the audience, both online and here. We really do appreciate that as well. And a big thank you to Wheaton Public Library for partnering with the League for this, for hosting the summer Civic Awareness Series. We really thank you so much. We appreciate your help. Yeah, give them a round of applause. Thanks. And of course, thank you to our sister leagues. We appreciate you as well. There is no civic awareness program in August, so we're taking a break, but we hope to see you in September. And I won't break out into song for those of you who know, see you in September. We'll be back at Cantini, or you can join us online for our September 21st Civic Awareness Program. Audra Wilson, who's the CEO and president of Shriver Center of Poverty Law, will be speaking on economic and social justice. We look forward to seeing you in September. Thank you so much. We'll see you in September. Thanks. Good night.